Lewis Hamilton was furious, and for good reason. What should have been a promising sprint qualifying turned into a disaster at Interlagos, and it wasn't even his fault. A mistake from his teammate, a misfiring Ferrari, and nearly a harsh FIA penalty. The seven-time world champion had every reason to explode. Let's break down what happened during the Brazil sprint qualifying, the shocking internal reactions, and why this could mark a turning point for Hamilton's future at Ferrari. In Brazil, a circuit where legends have risen and empires have crumbled, Lewis Hamilton uncovered something that shocked even the most seasoned voices in Formula One. What he found wasn't just a performance issue or a tactical mistake. It was a structural failure, one rooted deep within Ferrari's SF-25, and it left him furious, frustrated, and completely exposed in front of the world. And this time, there was no way to cover the cracks. From the first minute of sprint qualifying at Interlagos, it was clear that the SF-25 wasn't working with Hamilton, it was working against him. The car resisted every input, failed to respond to adjustments, and lacked the very feedback that a champion like Lewis relies on to find the edge. At a circuit that demands trust and flow, the SF-25 delivered neither. And what began as a struggle quickly became a humiliation. Then came the disaster. In SQ2, Hamilton was poised to strike, ready to pull a last-minute lap that might have vaulted him into the top 10. But as he approached the final sector, Charles Leclerc spun his identical Ferrari at turn 12. Yellow flags were thrown. Hamilton, obeying the rules, lifted off and missed the cut by less than 1/10 of a second. He wasn't beaten on merit. He was blocked by fate, and more painfully by his own team. As if that weren't enough, the FIA launched an immediate investigation into Hamilton's response under yellows. Was he too fast? Did he lift enough? A potential penalty loomed. But when telemetry confirmed he was on an out lap and had indeed slowed, the stewards issued only a formal reprimand. No grid drop. Still, the sting remained as weekend nearly derailed over something that had never been in his control. And yet, through it all, Hamilton held the line. No public outburst. No theatrics. Just honest, cutting frustration. His post-session interviews revealed the depth of the problem. "It's the same every qualifying," he said. "I have no confidence in the car." The SF-25 was bouncing again. Cornering grip was inconsistent. Setup changes made little difference. He even referenced Baku 2022, a dark period of brutal porpoising, to describe how undrivable the car had become. From the outside, it's easy to blame performance gaps on a driver losing his edge. But in Lewis Hamilton's case, the data tells a different story. The problem is not the man behind the wheel. It's the machine. The SF-25, Ferrari's latest attempt at returning to title contention, is failing in the very areas that matter most, and it's forcing Hamilton to compromise everything that has made him a seven-time world champion. In Brazil, Hamilton's frustrations weren't based on a single lap. They were rooted in patterns that have defined Ferrari's season. The SF-25 has a painfully narrow operating window. When tire temps, track surface, aero balance, and ride height don't align perfectly, the car becomes unstable. And in a sprint format with limited setup time, that margin for error becomes a chasm. Hamilton was navigating not just a circuit, but a minefield of mechanical uncertainty. What makes this worse is the mismatch between car concept and driver skill set. Hamilton's style is all about flow, feeling the car through rotation, trusting the front end, adjusting mid-corner. But the SF-25 doesn't allow that. It understeers at entry, snaps at apex, and forces reactive driving. That means instead of attacking corners, Lewis is protecting himself from the car's unpredictability. And no matter how good he is, that's a losing formula over one lap. Ferrari engineers made compromises in the cars designed to chase downforce without sacrificing straight-line speed. The result? A car that's fast in a straight line, but loses critical downforce especially through mid-speed corners like Ferradura, Laranjinha, and Bico de Pato. Hamilton can feel that loss in real time, but there's no adjustment in the cockpit that fixes instability built into the chassis philosophy itself. In Interlagos, all of these issues compounded. Ferrari had to raise the ride height to avoid the rougher new surface, which killed floor efficiency. That removed aero load from the rear, shifting balance to the front and causing exaggerated bouncing. Hamilton described it as a repeat of the worst days of 2022, when porpoising wasn't just uncomfortable, it was performance-breaking. And that's exactly what happened again. At this level of competition, even a small loss of confidence is catastrophic. But for Hamilton, this isn't about confidence in himself. It's about a team that can't yet provide him with a weapon worthy of his skill. Brazil proved that once again, and as the season approaches its final stretch, Hamilton's greatest challenge isn't Red Bull, McLaren, or the rain. It's Ferrari's inability to deliver what he was promised, a car that lets him fight at the front. Lewis Hamilton is not just driving a Formula One car. He's correcting a flawed machine in real time, lap after lap, with surgical precision. What he did during sprint qualifying in Brazil wasn't a failure. It was a showcase of control under mechanical chaos. And while most fans saw a driver eliminated early, engineers watching the data saw something else entirely. One of the best drivers in the world bending physics to make a broken car work. The telemetry out of Interlagos revealed telling details. In turns 1 and 2, where mechanical grip matters most, Hamilton was modulating his brake pressure in smoother gradients than Leclerc. It wasn't a sign of caution, it was compensation. The rear of the SF-25 was bouncing unpredictably, and Lewis adapted by shifting braking forward, elongating his input arc to avoid rear-end instability. That's instinct, born from years of racecraft under pressure. In the sweeping mid-speed corners, especially Larangina, he was feathering the throttle instead of leaning on it, not because he lacked pace, but because the car couldn't hold lateral load without washing wide. This wasn't Hamilton off the pace. This was Hamilton choosing how much of the car's instability he was willing to fight and how much he had to endure to even stay on track. It's not optimal, but it's survival. And very few on the grid can do it like he can. The SF-25's biggest issue in Brazil was its lack of aerodynamic stability under yaw. Ferrari's floor design, tweaked for this circuit, couldn't generate the consistent downforce needed through direction changes. That instability showed up clearest in Hamilton's throttle traces. He wasn't accelerating out of corners, he was managing energy through them. That may not show up on the stopwatch, but in terms of workload, it's massive. What makes this so impressive is that Hamilton wasn't just driving differently, he was thinking differently. During each session, he was feeding live feedback to his engineers, suggesting solutions even as the car deteriorated under him. Very few drivers can interpret handling flaws mid-corner and convert that into strategic adjustment suggestions in real time. That's not talent, that's elite experience meeting impossible circumstances. And yet, as all of this unfolded, Hamilton never lost composure. He knew exactly what the car was lacking. He knew why it was off the pace. And even as media headlines painted another bad qualifying result, the truth was clear. No one else could have taken that car and done more with it. Engineering may have failed Hamilton in Brazil, but his ability to engineer performance from a failing machine was nothing short of masterful. Brazil wasn't just another difficult session for Lewis Hamilton, it was a crossroads. After all the promises made when he signed with Ferrari, he now faces a simple but brutal reality. The car cannot give him what he needs. And with every race that passes, the emotional cost of carrying a team that is still trying to find itself grows heavier. The clock is ticking, not just on the 2025 season, but on Hamilton's patience. Lewis didn't come to Ferrari for nostalgia. He came to compete, to win, to write a final chapter worthy of his career. What he discovered in Brazil was not just a mechanical limitation, it was a confirmation that Ferrari, for all its history and passion, still lacks the consistency and clarity that modern championships demand. And when even the basics ride height, grip balance, aero stability continue to fail him, it's not just a technical problem, it's a structural one. The issue now is belief, not in Hamilton, in the team. Because even after another painful weekend, Lewis is still performing, still adapting, still feeding data, still fighting. But can Ferrari give back the same level of execution? In Brazil, they couldn't give him one clean run, couldn't give him clarity in setup, couldn't give him the feeling a champion needs. And if that doesn't change, no amount of talent will keep him committed in the long term. Inside Maranello, pressure is rising. The 2026 regulation shift looms. Hamilton will demand answers, not optimism, but architecture. What is the design path? Where is the aero solution? Can they build around him, not just around the simulator? Because if not, other doors will start to look more attractive. And a driver like Lewis, even in his 40s, still holds power in this paddock. Teams know what he brings. Yet, through it all, Hamilton has not fractured. He continues to show professionalism, commitment, and class. That's what makes this entire situation more urgent. Ferrari isn't being judged on performance anymore, it's being judged on whether it can rise to meet the standards of legend. Brazil made one thing painfully clear: they are still far from that level. And Hamilton knows it.